afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session today. I am with very esteemed faculty from UDC. So this is called Raising the Bar in Education, a roundtable discussion on quality matters. So we do thank you for joining today. So first, our agenda, we'll talk about what is quality matters, and I'll also go over how UDC and C.A.L can help support you with getting quality matters certified. Next, we'll move into a roundtable discussion with some questions about quality matters, and we'll hear some faculty perspectives here. And then I'll go over some next steps and any questions that you may have. I'll also have some room for Q&A at the very end as well. So first, let's talk about what is quality matters. Here's a short video that really explains it well, what quality matters is and what some of the goals are. So let's watch.
I'm Stephanie Diemel, and I teach physics and astronomy here at Shoreline, and I'm a Quality Matters Master Reviewer.
My name's C.A.L. The types of classes I took at Shoreline were 100% online. I completed my whole 2-year degree just through online courses.
Quality Matters is a set of tools for improving and developing online courses. To me, it's also a community of faculty and learners and researchers that are all kind of in it together in the spirit of improving online education.
Seeing the QM certification on her homepage was really a sign to me that it was, a quality course. Everything was laid out really neatly, week by week. It was super easy to go through and say, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. This is, the video I'm supposed to watch, the lecture I'm supposed to watch, the reading I'm supposed to be doing, and then the assignment. And it was all just really consistent.
Having a course that is QM certified shows that the course is a learner-friendly course, that it's friendly, open, and transparent to learners, that the course is logical, it makes sense as far as its layout.
Every single online student would benefit from courses designed with QM principles in mind. Course alignment, I think, is really important, knowing that what you're learning is related to course outcomes, that it's related to the material you're learning for the week.
So when learners approach my class now, I feel like they're approaching something that they can see from the beginning all the way through. They see not only the content, but they can easily navigate the structure and see their way to success in the class, which is a great thing.
Students do notice the difference, and taking that extra time to do a program like QM or put that extra effort into making sure things are organized and really clear makes a huge difference to students, even if they don't say anything.
I'm Stephanie Diemel, and I believe that quality matters.
I love that. I believe that quality matters. So that's a perfect segue into our discussion today. So what I'll do is I'll have each of our faculty members that are on the call introduce yourself. So your name, title, and department. And let's start with Dr. Wentz.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jillian Wentz. I'm Associate Professor of Science Education at UDC. And I'm also a Martilla Minor Faculty Fellow through C.A.L.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Wentz. And Dr. Miles?
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Annette Miles. I'm an assistant professor and program coordinator of human development and a Martilla Minor Fellow as well for this year.
Excellent. Dr. Plummer?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for having me today. My name is Yolanda Plummer. I am a professor in the School of Business and Public Administration, and I'm also a 2022-23 Martilla Minor Fellow. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Plummer. And Dr. Sandra Jowers-Barber?
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Jowers-Barber. I am Division Director for Humanities and Criminology at the Community College, and I have done the Quality Matters training. While I am not currently teaching, I have taught. I've developed some courses online, so I'm now looking to support faculty. Professor Ahmad Wright is one of the faculty in Humanities and Criminology who has taken the course, and I'm looking forward to his comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Chinta?
I'm Ravi Chinta. I'm the Associate Dean, and I also hold a faculty rank in the Management Department at the School of Business and Public Administration.
Thank you very much for joining. And Dr. Barty?
Good morning, everyone. I apologize for my tardiness. We're in the middle of traveling to a wedding in New Orleans.
Thank you for joining us.
Of course. Sorry if my Wi-Fi goes in and out on us. I'm so sorry. I missed what we were supposed to say. I am Jennifer Barty. I'm an assistant professor of education in CAS.
Excellent. You got it.
I got it?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. So we have 6 esteemed faculty with us today. Thank you so much for joining. So I will be asking questions. If you do want to respond, just give me that little visual cue with your hand or thumbs up, and I'll go ahead and call your name. So first question is, number 1, how has QM or Quality Matters impacted your approach to course design, and what impact has it had on your students? Who would like to start?
I'll start.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Miles.
The Quality Matter has had a great impact. For one of my classes, this will be the 3rd time that I am redoing the class. One thing that I've noticed when you have the Quality Matter, it's consistent. Everything aligns and is very, very friendly. Student friendly. One thing that I experienced in the past with some of my majors was when I used modules in an online class, it wasn't friendly. So although everything was there, the navigation was not. And the Quality Matter gives you an opportunity to even make it more friendlier, so it's easy for students to navigate. And one thing that I found, when they can navigate it, they do engage, and they and you know that they are using the course shell.
Excellent. I have Dr. Jackson on the call as well. So Dr. Jackson, just for everyone here, if you do want to answer the question, just give me a little visual cue, like your hands up, and I'll just call your name. But thank you, Dr. Miles. Anyone else about this first question? But yeah, Dr. Miles, like what you said before, Dr. Miles did a workshop with us last week, and really organizing by modules really clearly is a very effective way, right, to change the way your course is designed. Yes, Dr. Wentz, go ahead.
One of the things that I guess I appreciate most about Quality Matters is that it makes me intentionally really stop and pay attention to alignment throughout the course. As someone in education, it's kind of second nature to make sure that the course aligns with the learning outcomes, the course outcomes, and that all the materials of course align, but really having to stop and make sure that that's evident in the online environment, and that anybody could theoretically drop into that course and see the alignment very easily. I think it's really, really important. It needs to be so transparent that a layperson, someone that has no background in that subject whatsoever, whether it's a student or anyone, can come in and make sure can very clearly see that I'm doing this reading because it helps me meet this goal, or I'm completing this activity because it helps me attend to this particular learning outcome. And that's just being very intentional with that has been really helpful in me making sure that my classes, what I've got in my head, as my plan for my class really translates to that online environment, and that it's very easy for students to be able to clearly see that framework of the course and kind of the map of how that course should.
Yeah, at the very end, Dr. Wentz said, making it very easy for your students to see that framework of the course. Thank you so much for that. Fatma, anything to add?
No, I was going to add, as a designer, it really helped me, give me skeleton kind of to plug in the information. And this is what I love about it. And I think Dr. Brewer and I had a little bit of a disagreement, and he's traveling, so he won't be joining us. So that skeleton is, for him, it was limiting the creativity, but for me, it was actually plugging the information in the right way to help the student go through the module rather than focus on the scavenger hunt or the guessing game. Where is the information? Is just really where working on the learning process. This is what I expect, and where is my and this is where my reading and assignments. So it's a skeleton rather than just tied us to the design. That's what I love about the quality matter. And every single activity as a designer, if when we deploy a discussion board, why we have to do that discussion board, and telling the student where is the discussion board, how to function with the discussion board, what is the technology used. And I think this is, I never really had this in mind when I designed courses, but once I got certified by the Quality Matter, it really helped me see that.
Definitely. Thank you, Fatma, for that. Dr. Sandra Jowers-Barber?
I agree with that. I also am looking at it for the classroom, for faculty creating syllabi for the classroom, looking at aligning those assignments. So, and I'm looking for data to see what the impact has been on students. If is there a notable difference in how they are engaged? So starting in the fall, I'm going to work with faculty to certainly to encourage and make, hopefully this is the workshops available, but even for those who are not teaching online, especially because most of the classes are coming back, that the intent translates whether it's online or whether it's in the classroom. So I'm looking now as to have my final meeting with faculty to talk about what the syllabi should look like for the fall, right? The assignment should have a sentence or two informing the student how this assignment is going to help them, help move them toward achieving the student learning outcomes, or whatever that week's learning goal is. I'm looking for them to be able to tie the whole thing together, maybe have a paragraph either online or at the beginning of the syllabus to talk about how the assignments all align and what the purpose is. So when the students come to the assignment, they'll certainly have that text, but we'll already had a conversation about why we're doing this, why we're doing that, and how this is expected to move you toward the learning outcome. So I certainly want to make sure that the online courses, that's critical, but it's also just as critical in the classroom when you're handing out a syllabi to your students, or when you're posting it on Blackboard and all they have is looking at that and walking away, or whatever it is, they should walk away with what everyone is saying, an idea, a concrete idea of how every assignment is aligning to moving them toward mastering the material and achieving the student learning outcomes. And I think that's going to come certainly making sure that faculty have adequate opportunity to understand why, and to be as thoughtful as everyone here has said when they are creating those assignments. How does it relate, and how am I going to make sure that I have some text informing students when they come across it, the importance of this and how it's going to move them forward.
Excellent, thank you so much. And let's hear one more, Dr. Barty.
Thank you. So Fatma mentioned, Dr. Brewer's concerns, and I can kind of probably enlighten a little more because he and I have very similar concerns. Full disclosure, neither one of us is a fan of quality matter.
So it is, Dr. Barty, it is cutting off a little bit. I'm trying to decode.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I know my traveling.
No problem. I can hear you now.
Sorry. No, my our background. Okay, both of us are have PhDs in curriculum and instruction. So I think Quality Matters goes against both of us philosophically. When I do think that it helps to have a structure, and I think that structure is important, especially for people like Dr. Wen said that don't have a background in education. I do feel that it's very cookie cutter, it's very black and white, and it doesn't allow for any real flexibility. So yeah, overall, I think that there's some positives. I think that it's not worth the amount of money Quality Matters charges for it. which I may be getting ahead of myself that way. But I hope I can kind of continue to share how Aaron Brewer and I feel about that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's an important perspective to have, right? As faculty, you know, what are some of the limitations of Quality Matters and what can we do to localize it for us here at UDC, right? So I do thank you for bringing that up. So let's look at the second question here. And this is, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in designing courses that meet Quality Matters standards? And how have you addressed them? So who would like to start with this one?
If you don't mind, since I was already kind of alluding to it. Yeah. So it's just that, yes, there should be measurable goals. And I 100% understand that. I just don't think they all have to be measurable in the way that Quality Matters says they need to be. Sometimes it is ineffable, you know, the qualities that we're trying to get through to our students. And so to have it checked by someone who's not a part of the university or someone who's a part of my program and they don't understand what I'm getting at, I don't know. It was frustrating to me that we couldn't design all activities with a little bit of gray. You know, I teach arts integration courses and stuff, so I found that Quality Matters really wouldn't have worked very well for those courses.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Barty. Fatma?
Sure.
Dr. Barty, I think this is really a really valuable observation. Can you go with us? So what kind of activity that doesn't align with the Quality Matter? What can you explain one?
Sure. So, you know, like I might have a final product where I say create a abstract rendering of your learning, right? Okay. And then they create that abstract rendering. And then I do put in there, you know, now please give us a write-up or please, you know, present a video or something like that. So I can, in fact, monitor that and quantify that. I don't want my students to feel as though they're having to worry about how many points they're getting when they're working on being creative. And so I know that there are some ways to kind of get around that, you know, Quality Matters courses kept saying, you know, for example, students should not learn to appreciate art. That is not a goal. And I think that is a goal. I think that there can be some measurable objectives to reach that goal. But that's what I'm saying. I just don't think all of them are quantifiable in the way that Quality Matters wants us to have them be.
Yeah, Fatma, you're muted.
Yeah, I mean, it could be part of the course rubric or the assignment rubric, right? So creativity.
Yeah, the assignment rubric. Yeah. Right, because they say that, you know, each objective needs to have a measurable assignment assigned to it. And, you know, some of these bigger pictures, you know, these more difficult concepts, I don't know, I feel I like to operate in this shade of gray in that. And I feel like that's really hard to have a rubric to align to. But like I said, this is my philosophical disagreement. I appreciate those who don't feel the same way as me.
Got it, but thank you. Those are great points. And I see Dr. Sandra Jowers-Barber, go ahead.
I agree with Dr. Barty that, you know, in the humanities, some of this is very organic, but some of it also is there should be some room for some agency in some of the assignments where it's not so much a measurable goal, it's a sort of holistic kind of response you want from your students that you're not able to measure. If we say, go out and visit the spot where Dr. King gave the speech, right? I'm not, and if I ask you to write a paper, you're asked to write a paper, certainly that's measurable. But if we're talking about how does that move you, how does that change or inform your thoughts about Dr. King or civil rights or about the fact there was only one woman on the stand, those kind of things are not necessarily measurable. But if you want a response in your student from going to a historical site where a historical actor stood, what is the change that you have felt from that? That may not be measurable, right? That may not be a quality matters kind of thing, but it's certainly what you want in a humanities platform, where you want your student to be moved and to have either change, maybe a thought or of mind, or something that has moved them that may not necessarily be measurable by an assignment. The paper may be, but that conversation and that projection of what they felt while they stood there, may not be. So there has to be, and I think a faculty person who is teaching in the present versus presently teaching needs to have the ability to incorporate that.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Nguyen?
So I need to respectfully disagree with my colleagues. My background is also in curriculum and instruction. And I honestly, I think that Quality Matters really gives us that framework, but also allows for the flexibility that the instructor needs, no matter the subject area. Science, which is typically where most of my courses lie, science education, it can be very quantifiable, but there are also things that are not. We can't necessarily assign numbers to them per se. But I found that it helps as the instructor to think outside of the box, and also as the course designer to think outside of the box of, I'm not trying to necessarily assign a number to something that's a little more abstract, but more so, did the student attend to that? Did they address that in whatever way, shape, or form? So oftentimes, sometimes I will have students write papers or write a response, but I try to give them other ways to do that as well. So, one of the things that actually Dr. Brewer had suggested that I do in one of my courses was use infographics. Another thing I've done is, allow the option for video responses, in some sort of design. Yes, I like to also incorporate the arts into our STEAM work. And like you said, Dr. Barty, it is difficult sometimes to quantify those things. So in the rubric, I try to give myself as much flexibility as I can, while also making it very clear to students what it is that I'm expecting. If I find that if we operate too much in that gray area, not all of our students are going to really understand what it is that we're asking of them. And that creates a lot of anxiety and confusion for them, because it's not cut and dry. It's not, these are the things I need to address. So it's just, really important, I guess, to give ourselves the flexibility in how we design those rubrics and how we word those rubrics, but also allow students enough autonomy to where they can really flourish and show the knowledge in their own way. So again, saying in the rubric, instead of, having this number of, did the student attend to this particular topic? If they went, like Dr. Sandra Jarvis Barber had mentioned, if they went to a specific space and they were trying to, trying to elicit some sort of response, did the student attend, to the feelings, the emotion, the experience, that particular it's part of the experience. Did they attend to that in any way? Did they address it? Did they articulate it? And I find it, rubrics can be confining, but they can also be very subjective, even when they are measuring specific things. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, I like what you said about the framework with that flexibility. Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Dr. Plummer, your response?
Yes, and thank you to my colleagues, but Dr. Nguyen, you touched on something. I think for you, because you're a little more experienced in this area, and I will give you that, me as a new individual who's coming into Quality Matters, like Jen, I do like to think out the box, but something big, something different. But as I'm starting or beginning in this, I did find some challenges in creating those rubrics, or there were times where I felt like I was in a box, just trying to put what I had in my head on paper or for the students. Because I will be honest, there were a couple of assignments where I thought whatever I was assigning was clear, and some of the students did not understand it. So that I did have to go back to the drawing board. So I do think some of this comes with experience. You have to keep refining and refining, as Annette, as Dr. Miles had mentioned. And then you eventually get to where you're not dealing so much in the gray, but more in the black and white.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that, even having this opportunity for all of us to discuss our different perspectives is invaluable, right? So this is something we can do more often going forward, especially learning from those that are more experienced or well-versed in Quality Matters, right? So I think this is a great segue into our next question, which is how do you ensure that your courses are accessible and inclusive for all students? And how has Quality Matters helped you address these issues? Because one of the general standards is accessibility and usability here, right, with Quality Matters. So who would like to talk about this?
I guess if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, go
one's
ahead, Dr.
speaking.
Barty.
Yeah, so this is actually an area that I feel I need help and support with. And I was hoping the Quality Matters instruction would actually give me a little bit more guidance in that. And so when I spoke with Fatima about it, I was saying, you know, we might need to supplement it through you guys, perhaps, because Quality Matters just said, you know, hey, you need to check the code. Here's how to get to the code. I've never in my life looked at code before. And maybe I'm different or weird, but like I've never had to. And that's not my jam. That's not something that I, you know, feel passionately about learning. And so to follow the videos and go in and check the code, I was like, okay, I can see that it's working, but it didn't show me how to set it up for my students. So
Gotcha. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Barty. And that is a good point here, right? How can the CAL team help support you, especially with accessibility tools that we offer? We also have the Accessibility Resource Center, or the ARC, that can also help you with that. But yes, I'll go over some ways to contact us at the end of this. And Dr. Sandra Jowers-Barber, go ahead.
I think that one of the good things about having the support from Fatma and Julian and all of the people in that shop is that you can call on them for that piece. I'm always very attuned to the inclusive piece. My adult daughter is deaf, and as she was coming through school, it was always a concern, you know, that can't think of the term, but the wording was there and it was large enough and all of that. So I like the fact that Quality Matters has this piece about being very intentional about accessibility and inclusion in the code, and making sure that text is right and alt text and all of that. So that I always embrace. Every time I'm designing a course, that's very critical for me. Because I understand the challenges. And now that we have, with such a broad audience now on the courses that are online, it's very critical that that's done. I also agree that there needs to be some, even though the Fatma and Julian are there, sometimes I've called on them so much to do these things. I'm thinking that for my faculty, I would like to have one of our meetings. I always try to have meetings that are takeaways. So have an opportunity to talk about code, because it may be foreign to most when you're looking at that. How do you do that? How do you design that? And I saw in the chat, a colleague said, leave that to the instructional designers. Perhaps, but I think faculty should know what's going on. They should know why it's important. They should know that that whoever's viewing their courses are going to be able to, have access to them, and why that code is there, and why it's important to make sure that the alt text is there, aligned, and all of that. So that piece, I think, is really very important. And so we talk about that, and faculty at the community college, and everybody's class is diverse, but our classes are really diverse. So you want to make sure that you are reaching all of those learners. And so this does that. So this will be, I would just suggest to Fatma and Julian that if there's a way to have a brief orientation about code and those other things that faculty don't normally think about, even if they're not going to do it, just to be aware of it and why it's important and critical for their course design.
Yeah, Fatma, your response?
Yeah, I appreciate this discussion. This is really, we know what our next workshop will be, so we have to see you. The only thing I wanna to verify the language for Dr. Bertie and also Dr. Jowers, when you say the word code, because I went through the Quality Matter and the word code didn't come through me, didn't come to me. So when you talk about code, they didn't ask to write code. What do you mean by code?
The last workshop that we did, that we undertook, where they asked you to look to see if it looked like code to me. You had
You're
to,
talking about the PDF accessibility?
there you go.
Yeah.
So whoever said that, thank you, colleague. That's what I'm talking about. But it looked like code to me, to make sure that. So
Yeah, so-
I'll let my colleague, whoever said that, please pick up the ball, because I'm.
And I appreciate this conversation. Sometimes we have different language. That's why it's really important to know what. So they didn't say code. They said PDF accessibility. This is what we're talking about?
In mine, when I took the rubric course, there was a video I had to watch in the accessibility module, where it showed you to go here, here, and here to open up the line of code. And you could see, you know, just like what looked to me like gibberish of letters and numbers and asterisks and all of these things. And they said, if you see these 4 letters with this symbol next to this line, then it means it's active or something. I don't even remember. It was almost like a Where's Waldo for me. I just had to like go through.
Yeah, I hear you. Nobody should
literally like I was looking at another language.
Yeah, no, nobody should go through this. Now, accessibility, it's really not really related on a code or anything. We can do everything within Blackboard with some tools. So no code necessary. So, but I appreciate this because it really alerts us to kind of curate some workshop to help you through that.
Yeah, thank you.
I would be so thankful.
Yeah, and just a heads up for everyone here too, remember with Blackboard, we have the Blackboard Ally tool that could help you with accessibility without knowing how to code, right? So that's a really good tool to use as well. Dr. Miles, go ahead.
Okay. You know, one thing that I do, I anticipate that there's going to be someone who requires accessibility in some way. So the one thing that I do, I make sure that I don't use a lot of colors. And another thing is I will ask 2 of my very savvy, tech savvy students, and I will get one who's not tech savvy to just go through the shell. What was easy for you? What was difficult for you? Were you able to access, the closed caption? I make sure closed caption, everything is there. But, sometimes things disappear after you set it up and you just have to keep going through and making sure. But that's what I do. I just make sure that those alt text, or if I'm using, Quality Matters has shown me when you're using PowerPoints or images, you have to make sure that you put what it is, because not everyone, some people may need the accessibility. And that's one way to do it. So I definitely depend on my students to go through the class and give me that feedback, and then I make changes immediately.
Definitely. Thank you, Dr. Miles. Julian?
My bad. I was not ready, but
okay.
No, you're fine. So I was just kind of speaking to, some of the things everybody says about the accessibility piece. And I think as somebody who has went through the Quality Matters and has peer reviewed a few courses for Quality Matters, one of the bigger accessibility pieces that we look for is typically within the navigation, typically within your alt text, and typically with your multimedia, making sure that it features those closed caption pieces. When we speak about the web page and the coding, that specific mark talks about, if you're using external web pages, are they accessible? And that's where you kind of look into the coding piece. But when you're looking at that, and just as a reviewer standpoint, we really can't negatively grade anybody for an external page that may or may not be. But we also want to make sure that the faculty are providing resources for students if a web page may not meet certain accessibility needs. So I think those are the big things you're looking at. And for myself, even for the courses I've designed, it helps you understand that everything that you're putting in the course has to be accessible for these students. You have to automatically, just like Dr. Plummer said and Dr. Miles said, you're assuming that you may have a student who needs all of these resources. So it kind of puts that in your forefront, knowing that, hey, if I'm adding my own videos, closed caption needs to be there, transcript may need to be there. And it just kind of provides you that heads up that these are things to look for when creating these courses, because you just never know until you get that student roster and you find out, hey, you have these needs that need to be met.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julian, for that perspective. And Dr. Plummer?
Yes, real quick. Thank you, Dr. Jowers, about that piece about the PDF, because that is one thing that Quality Matters helped me to become more aware of, because I generally do provide external resources for my students. In addition to that, it has made me focus more on ensuring that assignments, some of them are self-paced, and that also I've removed time limits for submissions as well, particularly for those individuals who may require additional time. And another thing that I do that I know is not necessarily aligned with Quality Matters, in addition to posting my assignments on Blackboard, I also email the assignments to my students as well, just as a backup.
Excellent. I think these are all great points, especially for accessibility, usability. Let's move on to number 4. So what are the most effective strategies that you've used to engage students, and how do these strategies align with QM standards? Who would like to go first? Let's start with Julian.
So real quick about this, and I think this is kind of funny because I think we are all as universities starting to do this now, but I think I wanted to say the biggest piece is engaging your students from the start here. Having them introduce themselves to the class, introducing yourself to your students. I think a lot of professors are now getting onto this as we've done online and hybrid and high flex courses, but this is a very pivotal piece in Quality Matters, and it's one of the first standards you'll see is, do students get a chance to interact with you? Do students get a chance to interact with each other? Do you introduce yourself to students to make your course feel more homely for students, it's a more inviting feel? I think that's a very big piece, and that is the start of your class. So how are you setting the tone for your students at the beginning with your introduction and their own student introductions?
Love it. Thank you, Julian. Dr. Sandra Jowers-Barber?
That's one of the things that we really want faculty to do. So what we've piloted this, and hopefully we'll be able to do it in the fall. We're asking faculty to do 2 to 3 minute little short videos that they put on the Blackboard site. We're asking that there's a visual. So when a student goes to that site, they visually should be able to see what the course is. So if it's a history site or political science site, a contemporary image, or some image that imparts what the course is, and a little short snippet of you speaking and addressing them in a conversational manner, and even allowing them to do that themselves. Also the icebreaker. And again, we want that done before the class starts. I believe that before that semester starts, every student should have the syllabus and should have a chance to interact with you visually. And I think that's welcoming as well, that there's a visual image, there's you doing some kind of introduction, and that it's done before the first day of class. So a student who's already registered for that class should be able just to go and see whoever the faculty is, get a brief overview, welcome US history to 1865. This is some of the things, looking forward to seeing you, excited, and here's the syllabus, and there you go.
Excellent, I love that. And actually, Dr. Chinta, I see that you have some things in the chat box, if you'd like to kind of explain those.
Yeah, I was trying to write down for each of those questions my answers.
Excellent.
For Q4, this is from my own lived experiences in teaching courses. So I start with the syllabus. I think I'm already restating what has already been stated here. The syllabus really gives the overall big picture in terms of laying out what the course content is, and not week by week coverage and assignments and learning activities and rubrics and so forth. So syllabus as a overall framing of the course. And second, almost all students are interested in their grade. So having very clear and well understood rubrics for all assignments and without linking assignments to grade, student engagement automatically becomes very, very, very low. So you have to link it up to the grade book. Otherwise, assignments with no grade, students just don't engage in those. That's my experience. Then prompt grading, as soon as they are done with it, you grade it and put it back. And then in the next class, talk a little bit about collective level lessons from the assignment, so that everybody appreciates what they did in the assignment work. And also midterm course evaluations to get some feedback for any possible mid-course corrections to address what the students want. And finally, having student-to-student learning. In my class, I try to achieve 3 modes of learning: from instructor to the student, from the student to the instructor, and student-to-student learning. And I think team projects are really good in student-to-student learning because they interact and so forth. So I'm restating what everybody else has already restated. So
That's
sorry.
a good recap, though. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Shinta. And let's do one more, Dr. Miles.
Okay, so a strategy I use, I do a short video. I talk about the class, and then I share my interests, things that my hobbies or whatever. But I also include the course map because students, all they want to know is, what do you want me to do? How many points am I going to earn? And when is it going to be due? So I make sure that that course map is right there, and we look at that right away. We go through that, and that has been that's a very good strategy, because they don't have to, run through the syllabus. They'll see everything at a glance, and that makes it easier for them to navigate and schedule their assignments for the semester.
Excellent, right? Having that visual cue for your students to know what's due, what's going on, how is this all connected? Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Miles. For number 5, how do you measure the effectiveness of your courses, and what metrics do you use to evaluate student learning outcomes? Dr. Nguyen, thank you.
So I don't know how many of you have taken the recent webinars on the EAC data visualization tool, but it is amazing. And that's what I've started to use in tandem, with going through the rubrics on my own and just kind of visualizing where students are achieving very highly, and also where they might be struggling, and where I might need to add additional instruction. So with the EAC tool, it literally visualizes based on student mastery on the rubrics, where they're doing well, where they're struggling. It makes sure that your rubrics are valid and reliable. And that's been really, really helpful for me in being able to download those reports and really, reflect, where do I really need to have additional touch points? Where do I really need to add additional resources, additional instruction? Where are students falling short, and where can I help them? And on the flip side, where are they doing really well? Where are they shining? And kind of figuring out, how am I teaching that part differently than the part that they're struggling with? So EAC is amazing. Definitely recommend that.
Excellent. And EAC, we have our 3rd webinar tomorrow. So thank you, Dr. Went. That is from 12 to 1. I did put that link in the chat box, but we have the first 2 webinars also on our YouTube channel if you'd like to start with that, or you can email us if you want some more help with EAC. But thank you, Dr. Went. Anyone else? How do you measure the effectiveness of your courses? Go ahead if you have a response.
One of the, and I'm speaking now from a division director's perspective, looking at faculty data. One of the things that I ask faculty to do in humanities and criminology is at the end of the semester to do a data assessment chart that looks at what you thought were the highs and lows of the semester, how your students did, what grades your students achieved, why you felt they achieved those grades, and what is it that you provided students to assist And how are you going to use that data to improve your syllabi for the next semester? And I need to see evidence of that. So your syllabus, if you say students were not strong in preparation for English, and they need to take the first essay or paper to the case center before they submit it, then that should show in your syllabus, and there should be a reason why students are now taking the first paper to case for support and review and have time to revise before they present it. And the measures, and I think faculty certainly need leeway, but I think there should be some consistency. So if there are 5 sections of IJED 111, it should not be so different. For the student learning outcomes should be the same. So if I'm sitting in one faculty's course, I shouldn't, if I had to stop in the middle of the semester and go to another faculty's course, I shouldn't be lost, right? I should be able to sort of fit right in and keep it moving. So, and faculty have agency. You can do essays, you can however you want to, but the metrics and the assessments need to have some rhyme and reason, and they should have some consistency, and they should be defendable. So if someone says, why are you doing this? What metric, why is this metric being used? And now it's you have the ability to choose it, but why are you choosing it? And how effective is it? And can you show me any evidence? So at the end of the semester, I'm interested in seeing how faculty felt those courses, how effective those courses were. And the data assessment chart sort of gives them an opportunity to put in there and then do an overview narrative of how they felt the course was effective or not effective, and what they need from me to help support them going forward in making it more effective. And that's, I found that's been a good thing because it allows faculty to talk about what went on in the semester, how they help their students, how they're going to help their students, what they need from us at the division level to make that possible. Do they need more training themselves? Do they want, and we're small enough that they collaborate on metrics and on assessments, best practices, best tools, best instruments. So that helps. I just think one of the things Quality Matters has done for me is made me want to support faculty more in being consistent and having a way to be as clear as possible in presenting to students what they want them to be able to know at the end of the semester.
Very well said. Fatma.
Yeah, I thank you, Dr. Jowers, for this, and thank you, Dr. Winded, for the AAC. I agree, AAC is a great tool. Now it's on Blackboard, and you can look even for older courses and print to your report as visual data. And also, we are implementing Blackboard outcomes assessment in Blackboard Ultra. We are working in pilot program now with IGED and digital media and speech language pathology, and soon we will open it for the whole university where the courses will be aligned to goals of the program and the department and the school as well. So hopefully that will help evaluate the student learning outcome piece. But if you're interested to know more about it, join us on the Common Assessment Day. It's April 28th, right, Julian? And they will demonstrate what we have been doing so far, and we would love to have more on the pilot.
Excellent. Julian, anything to add?
Well, she hit on the part about the outcome assessment. I was just going to speak to, when you're talking about evaluating your learning outcomes, and I think you all spoke to this earlier, one of the biggest things you got to make sure is alignment first. Are they aligned to are your assignments aligned to your goals and your student learning outcomes? It's hard to evaluate effectiveness if your assignments are kind of far off from your actual goals or your outcomes for your course. And then, like you said, the use of rubrics, the use of EAC, depending on your assessment type, are just different tools you can use to kind of pull that data to see how your students are achieving on certain assignments that are aligned to specific learning outcomes, and that'll tell you where you can kind of go back and fill in that information.
And Dr. Jackson, last but not least.
And just quickly, and what I do to determine the effectiveness of the course is not always wait to the end of the course to determine. So throughout the course, I do some assessments. And normally in week 5, one of the assignments is an assessment assignment where the student is where I'm asking the student how it's going, what's going well, what they're not getting, how I can change things to make it better and make it more clear. So not always at the end, because normally when I think of learning outcomes, I think about once the class is over, did the student achieve that learning outcomes? But I like to do it throughout the course as it's going. I guess that's more of a process, sort of a process assessment if we were doing evaluations like as we're going through the course.
Dr. Jackson, I agree. And I meant to say that as well, because mid-semester is when faculty do their evaluations. And some do it, after the second, third week, just to see where students are, because that first week is so critical for pre and post, for your pre-survey, because your whole world may change once you have met your class and realize that the syllabus that you have and the assignments you have aren't going to work necessarily without some tweaking, because now you see where your students are. And that's very much what happens a lot of times to our classes when faculty realize that students need more support in this area and in that area before they're able to achieve the student learning outcomes. So you don't want to have an impossible, when you've met your class, to understand that my student learning outcomes can't be met until I provide some other support to enable them to be successful. So now I've got to do something different here. But that's a plan B that most good faculty already have, especially here at the community college. We are aware that we're going to have a very diverse group coming in. So we're already planning for the fact that we have to be very nimble, be able to pivot. And so we're not thrown by that any longer. But that first week is an assessment, and that midterm point is critical. And then of course at the end. So there are really 3 critical points where you have to make a decision and you want to get input and you need feedback and you need reflection in order to have an effective course.
Very well said. And we have about 5 minutes left. So I would actually love to hear from all of you for our last question. And you can make this short and sweet, but what advice would you give to faculty considering pursuing a QM certification? Dr. Jackson, go ahead.
Time, making sure that you have carved out ample enough time to really focus on QM. I did not give myself enough time. I found myself really stressing towards the end. So just make certain, you consider everything that you have on your plate and make certain that you have enough time to get through everything and to be effective with it. So that's my main advice to everyone. And find your support. I had support from quite a few other folks here on this call to help me to get through it. So have somebody to help support you as you're going through it and have enough time.
Dr. Miles.
I found it very helpful. David and I went through the peer reviewer program together, and it really helps to have that support because you can give each other feedback, and that makes it makes it less stressful, like Dr. Jackson said, because and you have to put that time in because it's unforgiving.
Definitely. And
all I have to say.
I have to say it was a pleasure to work with Dr. Miles. Each week we had these study sessions as we went through the course, but that was invaluable. I needed it. So it really helped both of us to get through the course and hear that feedback from each other. So thank you, Dr. Miles. Dr. Sandra Jowers-Barber.
The challenge for me is that I have 4 full-time faculty in my division, and I have 20 adjuncts. And so most of the teaching done is by adjuncts. And that's a challenge. They're wonderful. I'm very blessed. The students are blessed. We've got great faculty, but having the time to do that, it's just, there's got to be some other incentive. It's not that they don't want to, but, and I saw a colleague had put incentivize the faculty. For my adjuncts, I want to give them a stipend. I want them to be able to take a summer, because that's really the only time they're going to have to do this, and be able to do it well, because most of my teaching is going to be done by adjuncts. And we have great adjuncts who have been with us for a period of time, but I would not ask them to do this without some stipend for their time, because I know how much time, and they're teaching 3-3, right? So now you're going to ask someone to take this very challenging course that they're going to want to do without any incentive. So for me, it's got to be, I have to be able to financially compensate them for this, and also warn them, not warn them, but inform them of the challenge and the time and the difficulty of this undertaking.
Excellent. Anyone else? Any tips for faculty advice?
Hey, David, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Dr. Wright. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, it was interesting going through the QM certification for the second time, and I would just repeat what I said in the chat. After you take it, and it's going to be tough no matter when you take it or how you take it, but to take the time to reflect on your syllabus, on your current courses, and just think about how you would change the structure, for the next semester. What would you do differently? That's what I found myself doing afterwards. Julian mentioned alignment, and sometimes when we're teaching a class, there are things that pop up that you didn't intend to, but the more we can align our syllabi and with our actual courses, whether it's asynchronous or remote or whatever, then the better the outcome.
Excellent. Dr. Barty? Thank you, Dr. Wright. And Dr. Barty, you are muted if you are
Yeah,
speaking.
I'm sorry.
Hello.
Hi, sorry. You need a little time, as all have also indicated. I would also say to take what you can from it, but to appreciate it with a giant grain of salt. Like I said, I found it to be an incredibly frustrating situation. And when I definitely learned some things from it, I did not think that it was philosophically aligned with what I have come to see.
Yeah, I think that last part cut off, but yeah, take it with a grain of salt. But thank you, Dr. Barty, for that perspective. Never lose your sense of style, right? Your own teaching style. Fatma.
Yeah, I found out the quality matter for even the faculty that who didn't go through any of our certification, course design, faculty learning community, or want to start learn how to build the courses, whether it's face-to-face or HyFlex, just well-designed course. I think it's a really good start because it really combines everything. It's a lot of things in 2 weeks, but at least it's a crash course. And I found it really beneficial for the faculty to be learner in the space, in the quality matter, then also apply it for their own courses.
Excellent. And Julian, last but not least. Dr. Plummer after Julian. Yeah, go ahead.
Any advice for faculty? As you're pursuing this, if you have questions, reach out to us as a CAL team. Most of us have been through it and completed the courses. Reach out. We've got a chance to work with Dr. Miles and other professors who've got a chance to work through it. And we're more than happy to lend advice and, also kind of guide you through any pieces you need additional assistance with.
I have
it. Dr. Plummer?
Just real quick, the QM certification just became my roadmap for developing an online course.
Excellent. And Fatma?
Yeah, I want to just, Dr. Shinta had a question earlier in the chat, and we didn't discuss it. So I want to revisit it because it's what we are going through it with the quality assurance now, which is, he answered the answer for the question too. It takes too much time to get a course quality matter certified. So Dr. Shinta, I did check that, and it takes sometimes from 4 to 6 weeks. But I think even in C.A.L, it took us more than that. We have here Dr. Winde has been faculty fellow for the past 3 years. And we take a lot of time, and also we're really restricted about time. So we do peer review 3 times a year, but quality matter every single time. If we have course ready, we have the money, we can just submit it. So there is an advantage and disadvantage a little bit, but we see the advantages more than the disadvantage. Even if it took 6 weeks, it's still good because we don't have the resources to do this all the time, only 3 times a year. Dr. Winde, do you want to chip into this?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Like having enough time and enough, bodies at a desk to do this, it's, we just don't have that. And if, with this, and I think COVID really doing that emergency shift to online instruction has kind of facilitated a lot of us wanting to move our courses to online, or at least have the option in case we run into another pandemic, and know that our courses are rigorous and set up well, and aligned with QM. But just having enough people to do that, we just don't have it, and we don't have the resources to dedicate. So being able to go through the QM certification, which has a really stringent timeline, I think we can get things moved forward much quicker. But it's also a way that we can show to the community that the courses that we are offering, no matter the format, are rigorous, that we are a competitive university. Our courses are right up there with some of the top, and being able to say, hey, our program is, all of our courses are QM certified. That's a big draw for people, especially with the advent of many online programs, many online colleges. And, perhaps students are coming in saying, well, should I take a course at this university, because the entire program is online, or should I do it at UDC? What are the benefits? Well, the benefits are that our courses have been QM certified. They're rigorous. And we can attest to that. So I think that's a really huge benefit that we haven't been able to really reap yet.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Winde. And also we have for this summer, if you have courses that need to be redesigned or certified by the Quality Matter, we have stipend for the faculty during the summer. So let us know. Send us an email. Julian and I we're having a webinar. Is it next week, David? Is it
next Thursday on the 27th.
And we're gonna lay out the whole process. We have a stipend for the faculty to get their courses certified by the Quality Matter, and also for them we pay the also Quality Matter fees if they would like to do the workshop.
Yeah, that's a great segue. So register today if you are watching this online. C.A.L will cover your fees for QM certification, so just email Fatma. I think that's a great benefit and a great perk. But I do want to thank everyone for being on this call. I think all your perspectives were extremely valuable. Even if they're different, it really helps to shape how do we see QM here at UDC, and how is it helping us to just progress as teachers and also learners. So thank you everyone again for joining us today. As Fatma said, there is a workshop next week about QM certification with her and Julian. And also tomorrow is our 3rd EAC webinar. That's also at 12 to 1 p.m. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us. This was a pleasure. I could do this all day, but hopefully this is the first of many discussions that we have just like this. Right.
Thank you, everyone. And I got to see faculty I don't normally see. I may be the last person who still loves Zoom virtual meetings, but I do, and I'm glad to see all of you. Have a great week, and I look forward to more interaction and exchanges with each and every one of you. Fatma, thank you so much. Julian, love you, and thank you so much for not throwing me under the bus and saying, we really know Dr. Jowers.
Love it.
Bye, everyone.
I added the link for the certificate, the courses that it's certified by the Quality Matter. So all schools that go through this, they put their name along with the faculty who designed the course, not the instructional designer, the faculty. So we are, Julian and I, we're gonna work with the faculty, any faculty, please send them our way, and we will help them put their courses on the Quality Matter.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been such a pleasure, and we will hope to see you tomorrow and next week. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.